Today, I'm going to shed some light on 4 different topics. Many of you guys don't seem to have a very good understanding of the fundamental differences that exist between men and women. This ought to assist some of you in advancing in level. Those of you women who watch my videos intently, as if you were a fly on the wall, are going to get a better understanding of several ideas that you may have struggled with in the past. Before I begin discussing these 4 topics, I want to warn you that some of the information I'm about to provide may come as a surprise to some of you or maybe shock you completely. I want to emphasize that the purpose of these 4 pieces of advice that I'm going to offer you, these 4 lessons that you're going to learn, is for you to be able to learn them, accept them, and move ahead with the knowledge that it is okay to do so. Point number 1, one of the most significant distinctions between men and women, and I believe that both sexes have a tendency to have some difficulty recognizing this, is that in the case of women, we tend to be more preoccupied with our histories. While males are typically more focused on their careers and where they see themselves in the future, they are not overly concerned with the fact that you have 150 notches on your instrument. They cannot place a great deal of importance on it. In point of fact, there are circumstances in which it is almost desirable for women to be aware that males have had some experience and are aware of the power dynamics that exist between men and women. On the other side, they are anxious about the future of men. How well do you believe you will be able to provision and prepare for the future? Can you make it rain? Do you have any idea how a bank is constructed? Do you consider yourself to be a capable someone who is able to get things done? Or are you the kind of person who, when things go wrong in your life, throws in the towel, wallows in self-pity, moans and groans about it, and ultimately gives up? Women want to know that the man they are with is capable of making it rain, getting things done, solving problems, and having competent skills. They want to know that the man they are with is strong. It has always been like that throughout history, and it will continue to be like that in the future as well. There is no way that could ever be different. It makes no difference how much of the feminist indoctrination narrative we all take in as members of society, a story that attempts to level the playing field and make it a blank slate equal sort of egalitarian arrangement, where men and women are identical. That's not us. We are completely different from one another, while men, on the other hand, are worried about a woman's history and her current life, just as you ought to be. The vast majority of you males out there want to enter into some form of long-term relationship with a woman or want to have more pleasant contacts with women. Despite this, some of you continue to make an absolutely poor decision by letting or inviting troublesome women into your life. She has a lot of life experience under her belt. You won't believe this, but she was born to live on the streets. You are aware that she is going to be there for the long haul. There have been a number of studies conducted on this topic, and the findings have shown that men with a lot of experience and women with a lot of personal experience have 2 quite different experiences to share. You absolutely must keep in mind that, once again, women seem to be more concerned about the prospects for men. If they are going to judge her based on the future, they should be more concerned about what she has done in the past. If they are considering incorporating the woman into their lives on a more personal level. The second point, and some of the females are going to have a hard time accepting this one, is that this one is going to be expensive. And I think some of you guys may already understand this concept, but I think some of you really don't comprehend the relevance of number 2, which is that women in today's society have an excessively entitled feeling of their own self-worth. She was mapped that is not even close to linked with her genuine value in the sexual marketplace. I'll illustrate this point with a really nice example. I have chats with ladies on occasion, and every so often they email me requests to create movies about a problem that they're having. I got this one the other day where the woman was in her late 30s, and she was stuck on something. She was successful in terms of financial gain. The job that she was performing brought in approximately $30,000 for her each and every month. She might be proud of her accomplishments. She came to the conclusion that she had deciphered the secret to the company of one working for herself, disseminating information and generating some money at it. She'd done very well for herself, all things considered. In point of fact, she was a mother to 2 kids, one of whom was born only earlier this year. And the other one looks like she's somewhere around the age of, let's just say, under the age of 4, and she was bothering me. So basically, she's had a baby, and the other one tormented me. I am looking for a person, and I need your assistance in finding one. I'm single. I raise my son all by myself. This is how my tale goes. Even though I have a good income, I'm looking for an alpha male that has an even better income and is more intelligent than I am. This is not something that has only recently come to light. You might believe that this is the very first time that this has occurred or that I have never heard of this before, but in reality, this is something that happens very frequently. She did not have an accurate perception of the worth that she possessed in the structural market. In her younger years, she was known to be quite attractive. I am aware of all of these details since she provided a link to her social feed so that I could investigate who she was. She was a gorgeous woman when she was younger, but after having 2 children and getting married, along with who knows what else may have contributed to it, she has experienced a substantial decline in her appearance. But by that moment, she had reached the point where she felt entitled, even though she was divorced and had a young child with her. By the way, the reason why her husband divorced her was because he was connected with another lady. However, she believed that she was entitled to a better quality guy than the one who had left her for another woman along with their children. She anticipated that her new partner would have a larger income than she did and also be an alpha male. Because it's really around that age bracket that she's really going to have any opportunities that would be willing to take on the burden of another man's children, take on the burden of dealing with all the drama that's tied around. That for a woman that is nowhere near the peak of her sexual marketplace value, there is no man out there around her age bracket. And I'll be honest with you, there is no man out there around her age bracket because it's really around that age bracket that she's really going around the age of 23, women reach their reproductive prime. After that, their quality begins to deteriorate. On the other side, males have the potential to reach their peak performance far later in their lives than women do, and when they do, it's really beneficial for men. Because males can reach their peak performance later in life, perhaps in their late 30s or so, or maybe even closer to 40, depending on how well they take care of themselves. This is because men can reach their peak performance later in life. However, there is a significant gap between the levels of self-esteem that men and women have. You should realize that women have a significantly greater right to the value they bring to the sexual marketplace than males do. Simply put, it's due to the fact that they've been showered with unpaid attention for the entirety of their lives, most often from lustful betas and males who just kind of hurl it at them repeatedly. They obtained it from several social media platforms. You are familiar with this woman and you are aware that she is self-employed and makes over $30,000 per month using a business plan that she developed and wrote off as a firm. It was evident that she had a sizable fan base as well as the attention and admiration of a significant number of individuals. Due to the fact that she was marketing and selling products aimed mostly at women, my guess is that the majority of the people that watched her were women. However, there is not a single man in his right mind who would choose an alpha male, for example, who makes more than $31,000 per month due to the fact that this is one of her requirements. We all know that women are hypergamous, which means that they constantly desire to improve upon what they already have. For the most part, if it's an alpha C, they only want to have a one-night stand or fling when it comes to a casual relationship over the short term. There is nothing that will prevent them from spending the night with a man who was just released from jail if they deem him to have sufficient alpha qualities. On the other hand, hypergamy suggests that they only date and marry those who are more successful in life. Therefore, it is imperative that you, as a man competing in today's sexual marketplace, have an understanding of the fact that women have an exaggeratedly entitled sense of self-worth and have this notion that they are worth substantially more than what their actual value is in the marketplace. They have a hard time with that. They have a very difficult time accepting the possibility that at some point in their lives they will run into an obstacle and realize, well, that was a wake-up call. There is typically a moment when they realize I need to lower my expectations and I need to have a more realistic standard of my worth out there, because it doesn't matter how much money women make, they don't share it with men. There is typically a moment when they realize I need to lower my expectations and I need to have a more realistic standard of my worth out there. Men are dumb. We are willing to divide our treasure with ladies. Long-term, women do not anticipate men to share their pot of gold, and as a result, men always have the expectation that they will. You know, as I stated with this woman's request, that they connect with somebody who is better off and of course, crosses off all these boxes is so dominant. Many of the expectations that women seem to have are things like must be humorous, must be lovely, must be loving, must be kind, must embrace my children as their own, must be alpha, must be competent, must know how to change a tire, must know how to do dude. It's almost as if they have a list with 250 requirements that need to be satisfied before they will allow you to date a woman in her late 30s who also has children in tow. One baby and the guy that she had been with both abandoned her. I told her in no uncertain terms, you need to either adjust your expectations of what you're looking for, or 2, accept the father of your kids back because 1, it's better for your kids, and 2, you're not going to do much better. I saw the photographs of the guy in the feed, but that's the cold, hard fact. That's the kind of cold, brutal reality that women have a hard time accepting and men need to work on understanding. It's highly improbable that females will ever be willing to accept it. But let me remind you, this is the second one, guys. This is an undeniable fact. All right, let's move on to point number 3. And with this one, it's rather straightforward. There isn't a good girl. The only thing that differentiates bad girls from good girls is that the bad girls have been apprehended, whereas the good girls either haven't been apprehended yet or they haven't been disclosed yet. To tell you the truth, if you don't mind, every woman has a tumultuous history, although some are more troubled than others. I'm not sure who sent this link to me, but thanks. They tagged me in this link on Instagram the other day, and it was an interview with. quite possibly a most body-looking chick you've ever seen with her girlfriend in an interview talking about the 7 guys that she performed oral on one after the other. And she basically sold herself. They tagged me in this link because they thought I might be interested in seeing it. You should realize that she practically made a sale of herself. There is no way that women are going to go around informing men about their troubled background. It is a reality for many of them. The fact that she actually documented it was a stupid move on her part because it will, at some time in the future, come back to bite her in the rear end again. You are aware that, as I mentioned in point number 1, males are most concerned with a woman's history. Is that correct? But the trouble is that there aren't any decent girls nowadays unless you live in an Amish community and marry one of these Amish girls. Other than that, there aren't any good girls. You are aware that her history is familiar to you, and that it is well known in the community. If you're out and about in a major coastal urban area, you're probably aware that there are millions upon millions of people living there. You won't come across a nice young lady here. There aren't any, but you should know that there are some good ones and some awful ones. There aren't any that are perfect. To reiterate, you are well aware that the only thing that differentiates a good girl from a bad girl is that the male's point number 3 is that the bad ones have been caught. That is the one and only distinction. Understand that when you get out there, a lot of guys will approach dating in the sexual marketplace with the mindset of, I just want to find that one. The good females have some stories covering up what it is that's going on, so just keep that in mind. All I want is to locate that excellent option, and approaching it in that manner is completely inappropriate in every sense. You need to look at women in the sexual marketplace now in the modern world after all of these waves of feminism have changed the sexual marketplace for what it truly is all right. The fourth and final issue is one that some ladies won't appreciate me disclosing, and some men, this is going to be a tough pill for you to swallow. The fourth point is that she may not have chosen you above other options first. There is this idea of the alpha widow, and allow me to summarize it for you in the following way. I am going to relate the story to you in detail. There was a gentleman that I was instructing at one point in time. He was having some trouble moving on from a previous relationship and someone in his life. It was to this particular female that he had developed an unhealthy relationship. But after, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks of dating, he wanted to be exclusive with her. So he brought up the where do we stand chat. I've said this many times to guys. This is for women to bring up to men. It is never a good idea to start a discussion with a question, where do we stand? But let's put everything to the side for the time being. He brings up the topic of where do we stay on top, and she gives him her unconditional consent to be their exclusive partner. However, he continues to have this strange tingling feeling that something is wrong with him. It's as if his gut is trying to tell him something, telling him things like, hey, you might want to check out this, or maybe probe a bit deeper, or think about that. Take note, gentlemen, it's important to pay attention to your gut instincts. It's a highly vital factor to consider if you want to succeed in the world as a man, because it does talk to you and picks up on a lot of shit that many of us have a tendency to ignore or maybe just kind of like sweep over very quickly. The reason for this is that it speaks to you. So without further ado, let's get back to the tale. One day, you find her in the shower. It's currently the morning. He makes the decision to go to her laptop and browse through her email. In addition to this, he discovers an email from the previous week, which he received precisely 2 days after he had the conversation with her. Concerning how they would commit to one another, and she sent this email to this guy that she had been dating recently. About how they would commit to each other. She was left an alpha widow since he had dumped her like a piece of trash. They won't let you in on this little secret. They don't have a shirt that says, hey, by the way, I'm an alpha widow on it. On the other hand, he came to the conclusion that she writes him an email asking with him to reconsider their breakup and get back together with her. Together, they would make an ideal pair. They were both in their 30s when we met them. By the way, I believe he was between the ages of 34 and 35, and I believe she was between the ages of 31 and 33, making her a few years younger. However, she was literally pleading with this guy, saying things along the lines of, please let's get back together. Our offspring would be of stunning beauty. You are aware of how successful I am, right? You should realize that you bring something to the table. If only we could be here together, this would be an incredible experience. Just give the answer to this inquiry, would you please? You should know that this shattered his heart. Due to the fact that this was sent out only a few days after they had the conversation in which she made her long-term commitment to him. You have to realize that the majority of men do not prioritize you when it comes to entering into long-term relationships with women, since this is the case in the majority of cases. And it is my recommendation to men on this fourth point that you do not ever waste your time in a relationship with a woman where you're not her first choice. You're never going to get her best, she's always going to be pining for some other guy. And throughout the course of that relationship, you will go through a process of beditization through 1,000 concessions that will ultimately render you completely unattractive to her, and she will probably end up with someone else.